What's up, everybody? Welcome to Respect Our Authoritah Wisecrack South Park podcast. My name is Jared, and today we're breaking down South Park Season 22, Episode 6, Time to Get Cereal. I'm here with the other authoritarians. We got Ryan.
Howdy ho, neighbors.
And Amanda.
Hey, hey.
And Lux.
Hey, what up, dudes?
All right, guys. Let's do a little bit of guesswork. See what people think about this episode.
Well, hold on. I think we should first take a moment to give me some sort of award for predicting, having the wherewithal to predict that Manbearpig and fucking Al Gore were coming back.
All right.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Let's give Ryan a round of applause.
Say, Ryan, you knew it. Say, Ryan.
Knew it.
Let's go around. Everyone say, Ryan, you knew it. You knew it.
Ryan, I'm sorry we made fun of you and you knew it.
Amanda?
Right the whole time.
Amanda?
Ryan, you've always been right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
How
you
did
very
you
much.
know?
I'm thinking of all the things going on in the world. I'm putting my mind into that writer's room with Matt and Trey, and I'm like, you know, there was that whole global warming report. They got to bring back Manbearpig, you know?
Yeah.
So I saw it coming a million miles away.
A million miles away.
Yeah.
All right. Rock and
If
roll.
only we all had the foresight.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. All right. So I'm going to guess. I am going to, this is going to sound maybe a little bit lazy, but I'm just going to guess A's all around. I'm going to guess Ryan A, Lux A, and Amanda A.
Okay.
Let's start backwards this time. Let's start with Lux. How did I do?
Yeah, it's about right. I'm saying A-A. It's not like my favorite god tier of the season, but it's definitely, like A-A. It's extremely good in a lot of ways. It does a lot of things that I really like, and I really like the several layers of meta shit happening in the episode.
Cool. And Amanda?
Okay, yeah, I'm a solid A on this one. This was so much fun. Manbearpig has always been one of my favorite episodes, and having it come back to life was really awesome. I laughed so hard.
Cool. Ryan?
Unfortunately, I'm going to go B-, I think, on this one.
All right. Well, hey, it's not super polar.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes, and this happens every once in a while with South Park, where I love one of the plots, like the Manbearpig plot. Every moment I love, and then the other plot I kind of like, and it's just kind of goes between something where I'm like, this is hilarious, and something where I'm like, okay.
It's because you're not playing Red Dead Redemption.
Well, exactly. That's what I was going to say too. Is that if maybe I was, but I know a lot of people playing it, so I did actually really relate to the people talking about it. You know, like I get that part about it, but still, I mean, I don't think it would have helped that much.
I like
maybe would have got a B+.
I like how balls to the wall they went with it. Like, it wasn't just a subtle shout out. They laid over just pumping it in as many times as possible.
Well, it's clear that they were playing it, right?
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
And Trey? And then on top of that, does everyone know the Easter egg with Red Dead Redemption? How there is a Manbearpig in Red Dead Redemption?
I did not know that.
Yes,
What?
true story.
I heard about this.
Super meta balls here.
Whoa. I did not know that.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't been watching a
That's
lot of
pretty
videos. I've been trying to keep myself relatively spoiler-free. Although I did run into some zombies recently, and that was weird.
No Manbearpig in those zombies, though?
I haven't found those yet.
Yeah. Anyway, I really like this episode. I think other than episode 1, this is the episode that I laughed the most at.
Okay.
I thought it was really funny, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I just like school shooter jokes or something like that, because I thought maybe some of that was some of the funniest stuff. I love the Red Lobster scene with the guy holding his wine, and then Manbearpig literally tearing people to shreds in the background. That was so
instant
funny. Instant classic. Literally, my girlfriend and I were watching it on my computer, and in the background was my TV with Red Dead Redemption 2 on pause. So it was just, you couldn't make it more perfect. Every time Red Dead came up, and we weren't expecting it, and they would like get into these kind of granular details of the game, we were just the target audience for it. So it was very easy for us to laugh and appreciate it. So I'm going with an A on this one for sure.
Hell yeah.
Cool. All right, guys, before we start breaking this down, let's go into a recap. So Ned and Jimbo are going hunting near Tegrity Farm when the whole Marsh family sees a hulking monstrosity attack Ned. Meanwhile, Sergeant Yates is dispatched to investigate another victim of the monstrosity, but he immediately assumes it must be due to a school shooting done by Kenny and Cartman. But all he wants to do is just go home and play Red Dead Redemption 2. Stan informs Kyle and the boys that the monstrosity is Manbearpig, and they decide to find Al Gore, who offers to help them on the condition that the boys profusely apologize for not taking him seriously and humor him in his self-aggrandizement. Gore only agrees to help after Gore only agrees to help defeat Manbearpig when the kids offer him a Red Dead Redemption tip. After Manbearpig ravages an ice cream shop, Yates widens the search to include Kyle and Stan. When he finally gets a chance to play Red Dead Redemption, he finds out his wife has played without him, causing him to start a new game, and thus a new life. Al Gore informs the kids that Manbearpig is a demon and summons Satan to go with them to the public library. They learn Manbearpig is a fate shifter demon who made a deal with someone in this town. The cops close in, dismiss their claims about Manbearpig, and Yates goes back to Red Dead Redemption. The final shot is of Grandpa Marsh watching the arrest on his nursing home TV screen as he sees Stan say Manbearpig made a deal with someone. He says, "What have I done?" End of episode. Ooh, baby. All right. So...
Oh, yeah. We can just have that sound.
Yeah, let's talk about Manbearpig, guys.
Let's.
So I think we all see how more so than the initial Manbearpig episodes, it's much more clearly a stand-in for climate change. Do you guys agree with that? Because
I totally a stand-in the first time.
Yeah, I think I agree that it is this time, but I don't agree that it's more so this time.
Well,
than last time.
I'll be honest, I didn't rewatch the Manbearpig episode. I read the synopsis. I was kind of remembering it, but from my memory, like, they didn't do things like the very deliberate term for, is it inconvenient for you? Or like they didn't have the talking points saying things like, oh, well, you know, the Chinese aren't going to start doing anything differently if we stop doing it.
They didn't have that specific stuff.
Part of this episode, right, is that a lot of this episode, the meta angle of this episode is like this weird mea culpa, not even weird, justified mea culpa for like how the first episode kind of like made Al Gore and some of his climate change shit look stupid. And now it's actually like a really serious thing that they should have taken seriously from the beginning. Yeah. Right. Like, there's a reason why Al Gore makes the kids apologize for making fun of him. Like, the show still thinks he's a douche because Al Gore is kind of a douche, but they want to apologize because like Manbearpig or like climate change like is real.
Yeah, I guess I agree. I'm just wondering if initially they were just making fun of Al Gore for being a douche and making him very silly, and then later they saw how, with the show's new identity as being something that is always commenting on social issues or contemporary issues, we now see how Manbearpig can be thought of as climate change. So now we have to correct it, rather than them saying when the first Manbearpig episode dropped saying that, Manbearpig is climate change, which is bullshit, and now we realize it's not. I'm just trying to discern which one it is.
I feel like the show was less symbolic back then, maybe, or like it was less social point oriented. Is that fair?
That's what I'm saying.
Like it was a stand-in for climate change only in that Al Gore was preaching about it and being annoying, which I think they still stand by. But now that they're like very issue oriented, they're kind of restating their position on it.
I don't know.
That's how I feel.
See, to me, I don't know if that holds up. Like, because they're too smart to be like anything Al Gore's obsessing with in the episode is going to be climate change, right? Like, they know that. And so they have to like be aware that like when they're making the joke, they're shitting on that idea.
Kind of.
Yeah, but they were so like nothing matters back then, making fun of anybody who had any kind of cause. And now they're kind of saying they're not as much making fun of people who care as saying like, we kind of do care and everything's screwed.
Right. But right. Because it's the point, right? They were like, this guy's a douchebag with a cause, climate change, who cares? We don't care about anything. Nothing matters. And now they're like, oh, wait, actually, it do matter.
Well, the distinction I'm making is that when the first Manbearpig episode came out, I am imagining, which this is a complete guess, that they said something like, "Oh yeah, Al Gore is annoying how he keeps talking about climate change. Let's have him talk about something silly and funny. How about a man-bear-pig thing?" And then now, when they realize that, like, I guess, although It's interesting how, a lot of times in Wisecrack videos and Wisecrack podcasts, we don't really take the author's intent too seriously. I mean, it's obviously something to consider and we'll talk about, but, it's like looking at clouds. If a cloud is shaped like a heart, it doesn't even matter if somebody molded it into a heart. It just looks like it. But at the same time, I think they might be recognizing that in saying that, okay, we created Manbearpig. Our intention was just to do something silly, and now we see the way that media and specifically our show is consumed differently. So now we almost feel like we have to correct ourselves or bring this back up because we don't want to seem like we're just casting doubt on climate change with Manbearpig.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all that, except I do think it was very explicit in the first one that this is a climate, they're talking about
I'm
climate
just saying that, okay, it's like, hey, Al Gore is annoying when he talks about climate change. Let's make him annoying talking about something silly rather than climate change is silly. And so therefore it's as ridiculous as a Manbearpig. I don't think they were thinking that in the first episode.
In the first episode, it was way more kind of like what Amanda was saying, that it's way more about just the alarmism of Al Gore at that time. Inconvenient Truth had just came out, and it was like a big deal. He was winning his Oscar and stuff, and then it was kind of like, they were taking the piss out of it like they tend to do, and it was just all about Al Gore being, this kind of conspiracy theory douchebag, and it was less. I think they didn't. I need to rewatch that episode too, because I think they got less into the semantics of is climate change actually happening?
Oh yeah,
and
it's just that
it's just more about Al Gore's alarmism.
Yeah, but it is just that I think I think it's giving them short shrift as creators to assume that they didn't have some idea that like presenting Al Gore as conspiracy theorist isn't some way undercutting the shit Al Gore has to say generally.
Well,
I feel like
they're smart enough to know that. They're insanely smart dudes.
Well, this episode is proof of that.
Yeah, precisely so. Exactly. That's all I'm saying is that like they're were doing it then, and I think now rather than saying like, oh, this got out of control, they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that per se. Here, let's fix that real quick.
I mean, this might reveal my own like ignorance as like a teenager when I first watched this or whatever, but I love the original Manbearpig episode, and it never occurred to me that it was poo-pooing climate change. So I feel like both the show is just different now, and we're like its target audience is consuming it differently now, and this episode reflects both of that.
Right, that's what I think. I think Manbearpig for 2018 South Park has to be climate change, whereas back then it didn't necessarily have to be.
Well, no, I think that's the joke, though, of this episode.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. It clearly was climate change back then.
Oh, no, well...
And then now they're basically saying, we invented this thing, and now we're going to take it literally as climate change and talk about it like it's climate change, and then, which they didn't really do as much before. They didn't take it as literally.
Right, like I'm with Ryan. They were like, we treated climate change like a gag kind of the first time, and now treat it like a real thing this time.
Yeah, now it's, yeah.
Where I'm coming from, and I think where Amanda is also coming from, is I'm saying that, yeah, in 2018, if we look at the first Manbearpig episode that came out in 2010, we'd say, oh yeah, obviously they're taking the piss out of climate change. But in 2010, when Manbearpig came out, I don't think that the show, first of all, had an audience that was primed to read into the episodes like that.
I think you need to rewatch it. I think you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm with Ryan on this one, because I definitely, in contrasting anecdotal evidence to Amanda's, like I remember watching it and being like, this is funny, but like global warming is going to kill all of us. Maybe this isn't a great joke.
Okay, so you were a smarter adolescent than me.
I think I'm also maybe a little older than you. Or are you older than me? Who even knows how old anyone is anymore?
What is age?
Well, I did play the first South Park video game, Stick of Truth, and Manbearpig is in that. And really there's no, or at least Al Gore is in it. We don't actually see, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we actually see a giant hulking monstrosity Manbearpig.
Yeah, because he's real.
We see it in Imagination Land.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
But is it in Imagination Land, which isn't really within the realm of reality?
Okay.
Right. So this is the first time it's a real thing. But in the video game, we never see coded language like inconvenient, or the Chinese are going to go tell us to go fuck ourselves, so we tell them to stop industrializing or whatever.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, one thing that speaks to one thing that I definitely agree with that Amanda said is that like, the show is extremely more leaning into like the critical and political elements of the question. Like it's quoting like the way climate change deniers talk or climate change affirmers talk, and like using the rhetoric in this way that is like very specific and targeted in a way that definitely they weren't doing in 2010.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's can all agree 100%. On that. Yeah.
What's your next point?
All right. Well, let's talk about the end. Let's talk about Grandpa. Let's talk about Grandpa Marsh.
Okay.
So first of all, Ryan, the great psychic.
Yes.
What's the next episode going to be like? Where is this going to go?
Like, it's not going to go anywhere.
Really?
I think that was a big punchline. Like, the punchline is that, the older generation fucked all of us, and, they're the ones that made the pact with the devil to cause climate change. I think that's kind of what they're saying, right?
That's what I took too.
Yeah,
but
that's how I read that for sure.
Yeah, and then I don't think that they're going to, like, all of a sudden have Grandpa start doing shit. I think that was their big we're fucked moment. Where it's like,
so
we can't do anything.
Going to prison. Manbearpig is on the loose, and they're just gonna let it go.
No. Okay. Well, I thought you were talking about specifically with Grandpa. Like,
that too.
Okay. Well, I have no idea.
I think the story,
answer your question. What?
I think you're right though. Like, it's the whole thing about like the older generation like made this deal that fucked over the kids, and then like. I think that it is going to be this thing of like they have to find Grandpa and figure out some way to like fiddle contest with the devil or whatever.
And now
to fix South Park.
Lux, probably more about climate change. What what are they saying exactly? Like, how did the older generation fuck over the younger generation? I mean, I hear people say that, like fucking baby boomers. What do they mean?
Okay, yeah. So a lot of it's to do with coal and gas production, right? Like the huge amounts of usage, the creation of car culture in the 50s and 60s rather than creating like densely populated walkable cities.
So that's how they fucked us?
Well, that's step one, right? That leads into contemporary stuff where a lot of older people don't want to invest in things like green technology, stuff like that, because they have investments already in pre-existing things like coal, natural gas, etc. That's holding back a lot of the progression into like sort of more sustainable technology. But the main thing basically is that, like older people rather, kept creating things that were destructive to the environment without ever asking what the ramifications would be until like the 80s, 90s, right? Right. Like we didn't even have an EPA until after we finished poisoning a bunch of rivers with DDT, for instance.
All right. Well, devil's advocate of that.
Like, they kept doing that shit until it got real bad. And now we're like, oh, it's really bad. And they're like, well, we're going to die, but good luck.
Yeah.
And even worse, it's like all caused by developed countries like us, but the people who are actually like suffering the most are underdeveloped, like warmer countries that are like going to be completely screwed in like 10 years.
Right, like the coastlines of Bangladesh have moved in like kilometers in the past like decade and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a cluster.
Do you think that they're ever going to bring in, like, do you think that Manbearpig is going to go to China or anything else? Are we going to see these countries that are trying to catch up with our industrialization? Like,
I was wondering. I mean, honestly, this episode kind of scared me just thinking about the future. Like, not only because we're all going to fry to death at some point, but also it's like I was having like these visions of us going to war with like other countries like that are it's like other people that hate us, like, oh, those car guzzlers, we're all burning alive over here, and we're gonna come over and invade you because you're still driving fucking cars here in 2200.
Well, Ryan, it makes you feel any better. The UN put out a study a couple of years ago that America's uninvadable.
Oh, okay.
So you're okay.
All right. Well,
yeah, Red Dawn, it's not going to happen, man.
You don't have anything, you got nothing to worry about, bud.
Cool.
But yeah, no, I don't think that we're gonna see Manbearpig go to China. I don't think that's what like Ryan sort of said. The main turn of the episode was this like Grandpa Marsh thing.
Right.
And I just think China was sort of like, a shifting goalpost or like alternate causality thing, but I don't think it's going to be a thing that we actually see.
Yeah. You want to talk about the probably the best scene we already talked about, the one in the Red Lobster. I wrote down this guy's awesome speech, so I'm just going to say it. There's no proof, no real evidence that there's a Manbearpig. And then his wife says, a lot of smart people are saying Manbearpig is real. And he's like, yeah, well, a lot of smarter people are saying there isn't. What you need to understand, Susan, is that everyone has an agenda, okay? Everyone wants to use fear of a Manbearpig to get what they want so they can throw out bad science. So they throw out bad science, bad taxidermy, experts on the subject are coming out of the woods. You have to use your own brain, sweetheart. You can't just let people tell you that if you don't believe in Manbearpig, you don't care about the world. If you want to believe in it, you go right ahead there, Susan. And then he turns around and he says, okay, Manbearpig is real, but what are we going to do about it now to do any difference? What can we do that everyone else will do? Come on, use your brain. How about the Chinese? They're going to keep, and then he dies.
Yeah, it's like a truly S-class God tier level roast of just like so many human beings in that moment. It's so unbelievably good.
I've never seen
totally
that character and his wife, and he just looks so douchey. It's amazing.
Oh, they nailed it. Like his hair's coy from his dumb mouth.
Go ahead.
Oh, like his mansplaining just pose and demeanor was just so spot on.
Especially with the glass of
Constantly saying
wine.
sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a douche.
Kill me.
Yeah.
You know,
The worst.
I've fucking loved that scene so much for all the reasons you all love it. You know,
Yeah.
it's so great. Class A roast, you know, of people like that. However, you know, I will say that this episode offers no solutions, you know, like every other thing. I don't think. I mean, can you guys tell me?
I think
No.
that's why it fits with our thesis about this season being about resignation.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically like, you know, I mean, as much as I wanted that guy to get killed that is saying all those douchey things, there's a few things he said where it's like, all right, valid point. How do you know, but what is the what's the opposite of that?
Yeah,
you know,
he's a
like-
douchebag, but yeah, chances are if we tell
mean-
China stop industrializing, they probably will tell us to go fuck ourselves.
Right. So what's the solution? What's the alternative to that douchebag?
I don't know.
Well, right. Well, I mean, I think that
Say fuck old
at least
people?
within that conversation and within a lot of conversations, it's that like people who act like that are just like, well, like we can't really do anything, so we shouldn't try, as opposed to like we should try some stuff and hope it works.
Well,
But,
right.
like, yeah,
and
I
then,
mean,
but then
in like a
that
broad
person
scale
was
sense, like
right. But then
I mean,
that
some
person,
scientists think that like we could do any infinite number of things and it wouldn't matter.
but that person would say, well, all right,
Yeah.
the little things we're going to try are going to crash our economy and make, you know, fucking way worse for poor people. Then is that worth it?
That's a bad non-calculation, though, right? If
I know.
global
I'm just
warming's
saying
gonna
that
kill
that's-
everyone in 15 years. The economy crashes in 10. What's the difference?
Right.
And like
That's
literally
right,
cause
exactly.
like massive like famine, starvation, like disappearance of entire body. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
once farms disappear, the economy's going to crash anyway. Plus, like climate fascism and shit.
That's
it's
why.
about our failure of foresight also, which is like the entire problem of climate change in that it's slow moving, so we don't actually believe it.
Yeah,
Which is why
what was
Ryan should be in
funny.
charge.
No, I believe it. I believe it. I want to stop it. But here's the thing: is that to me, of all these hopeless problems brought up in South Park, this is to me the worst and most hopeless, because you have everyone on Earth who has an incentive to not do anything about it. There's no one's going to do anything about it. We're literally slowly marching to death, and everyone knows it, and no one's going to be the first person to stop it unless someone fucking with a gun is like goes to war and says, "All right, we're going to take
Or
everyone's cars."
kids. I think actually the episode's solution is that people might listen if their kids who are going to be alive a lot longer than them are like,
Don't hold your
"Dude,
breath.
this
I
is-"
don't think so at all.
But like, it actually made me think there is right now a case, I think going to the Supreme Court, definitely don't quote me on that, where a bunch of kids are suing like America for screwing them over climate-wise.
Exactly. That's
No,
the only thing I
a
can
real
see.
case.
Some giant
Yeah.
movement where all the kids sue America in the world. That's like the only thing I can see where everyone stops climate change. Some miracle.
Well,
But it ain't gonna happen.
Well, the big thing about it, right, is that there are like scientifically documented like strategies that like no one knows if they'll work, but are like the best possible ideas. It's that like a lot of people say shit like what the guy in the restaurant says and says like, oh, we can't do anything, or oh, it's not real, and so no one does the
Yeah.
shit. So we don't have like the Paris
Like,
Accords
breathing
come
your-
with a plan to meet the goals in the Paris Accords. Like they weren't just like, hey, get your emissions down. They were also like a how-to guide.
Yeah, but weren't they on the honor system?
No, they're tracking this shit. You're
Oh.
supposed to do it.
Yeah, you're supposed to, but if you don't do it, what happens?
And a lot of countries that have been greening it actually like can help the economy because it creates hella new jobs. And yeah, there are a bunch of those, all those European, Scandinavian countries are doing stuff right.
Hella new jobs that don't poison workers with like coal dust and shit.
What a
But
concept.
China
Yeah,
opens
that's-
like a million. I mean, exactly like that guy in the restaurant says. China's opening a new fucking coal plant. What are we gonna do? Fuck or whatever.
Well,
like,
the reason why I'm smiling right now is because like the hopelessness and the depressing nature of this conversation only makes the Red Dead Redemption thing that much better, because everybody's just like, fuck it, I just want to go home and escape to literally another life that is, and if you're playing the game, another life that is so detailed that you might as well just be living in the Wild West. And I do think that this is like a clever stand-in for just escapism. It's like the cop is just like, dude, fuck school shootings, I'm tired of this shit, just let me go home and play Red Dead Redemption. And I think like, yeah, with this climate change shit, it's like, what the fuck you gonna do? Let me just go home and play Red Dead Redemption with my mind blown so I don't have to think about this shit.
Right, and I mean, and I think that's extremely real, especially like what's interesting is that that's all adults who do that in the show, right? The kids don't do that. Like the kids play and they know the secrets, but they never like bail to go play Red Dead Redemption. Like
That's
to
a good
Amanda's
point.
point, like they're actually out there trying to do some shit in the way that like, people organize for like wind farms and then like oil companies take all the money away or whatever.
Right. The adults just want to play Red Dead while the world burns.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I totally identify with.
My favorite moment in the whole episode is when the dude gets off his couch and then puts on his hat and coat and then goes back and sits down like, I'm gonna go start a new life, and then he just plays the game again.
And I feel like, I hope I'm not overthinking this, but I do feel like it's deliberately, that language where he's like, with all these school shootings, I need a life of my own. Or that's what the wife says. And then he says, that's my life, Maggie. Like, not only is life so depressing in 2018 with school shootings that we have to escape to another life, but literally our lives are about to just just end, basically, with climate change. So it's like, all right, well, I better start putting more value in the digital one.
Right. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal, dude. This whole, like, I mean, as you said, Jared, like, this is really the culminating point of the season. Like, because, like, if there's anything in the world to be nihilistic about and, like, see the whole conversation we just had that was, like, 10 minutes of us talking about how we're all going to die, like, climate change is, like, the thing where it's, like, very easy to be, like, we're doomed. Like, even the best plans come with people being, like, maybe this will work?
Yeah.
As, like, a caveat. Like, and so it brings out, like you're saying, all of the elements of, like, resignation and escapism that we've seen throughout the season, but in, like, a really poignant way in this episode. Especially because Red Dead is so fucking detailed. That makes it like doubly working.
So are you playing it, Lux?
Oh yeah, I have to talk about it on the Game Boys on Monday, so I gotta play a lot of it.
Oh, so it is so good, and this is just really one of the benefits of making such a timely show, is because, I mean, obviously the writers were probably playing it while they were trying to write the show, and it comes out within the week, and. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like a lot of people who are watching it are probably playing the show, and with shows that have longer development cycles, you don't really get to hit the nail on the head like that very often.
Yeah, and it's such a game that, like, as you said, it's like built around how immersive it is, that it, like, is a perfect stand-in for like fake life.
Yeah.
Even as somebody who has no idea what this game is, it was still really funny just because of the specificity of things like, I have to go bring my team provisions. And I'm just like, where are you? What is this game? But it was just really, it was still really funny. And it kind of made me want to play.
Yeah, well, that's like a central riff on one of the main, like, either criticisms or like positives about this game, right? That, like, the thing with the game is that, like, you have to do all these tiny, small scale things that take a long time, like skin the animal and pick the carrots and, like, deliver stuff and get these things and do whatever. And some people are like, wow, it's like you're living the Wild West. And other people are like, wow, I had to take 10 minutes and skin this bear.
That sounds like torture.
But it's not.
Like,
I'm
either way,
totally
it's insanely immersive and realistic.
I'm totally on team immersive realistic, and especially because the pace of life and the fever pitch of life today is just so anxiety inducing that, just walking around and looking for some plants and having to press R2 every time you want to sip coffee. It's a nice change of pace for me.
You're enjoying the going and getting on your horse and finding a dog you can pet in first person.
Yes.
When you're freaking picking carrots in this virtual world, you're really just sitting around, really just taking it all in, absorbing the sights, being like, wow, life's good.
Yeah.
You're just picking carrots out here on my
bizarre
farm.
as it sounds,
So-
yes.
It's insanely detailed. It's like there's like vistas and like people moving in the distance and like a cow.
Jesus.
It does sound like you guys just all really want to go hiking.
Yeah, but
It takes too much
that is my
effort.
Yeah.
takeaway.
But only
Who
if I
wants
can
to get
do it without
sweaty?
going outside is the thing.
Right.
right.
Because I don't like shit and I don't go outside.
From what I hear, like your horse, right, has permadeath, right? So
I haven't experienced that yet, thank God. But from what I understand, yes.
my friend
Yeah,
was
it's
like,
true
dude,
and it's very sad.
my friend was like, dude, every time I like bump into something on my horse, I physically recoil and feel it. Like, dang it, my horse is
you
bruised.
develop bonding with that
Right.
horse, both literally within the mechanics and emotionally.
Right, and that's why this game is fucking perfect for this episode. It's like the most escapey real life fake life. It's like more of a virtual reality than any VR thing I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a part where the cop says when he's interrogating Cartman and Kenny, he says, "I've got real problems with real people, but every other minute I got to stop everything because one of you little fuckwads shot up the school." And the first time I watched it, I thought
he could stop being a pain in my ass about the school shootings.
So he later reveals that he wants to go home and play Red Dead, but when he says real problems with real people, is he already talking about Red Dead or is he just talking about like adult stuff?
I think he's talking about Red Dead.
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yes,
I think that in the pain in my ass scene, I think in every scene where he's talking about not wanting to be here, the implied part is that he'd rather be playing Red Dead.
Yeah,
Dude,
which is like insanely relatable.
The fact that there's going to be a school shooting in every single episode of this South Park season is...
It hasn't been every episode, but it's been a lot.
I'm pretty sure that there's been at least the sound effect in every episode.
Not last episode.
Yeah, there's like an ambient shooting.
Was there in the last episode?
Was there one in Scoots? I don't think there was one in Scoots.
I don't think there was one in
There wasn't
Scoots.
in one? Oh, okay. Damn it.
Okay.
Consistency.
Whatever. Dude, 5 out of 6 is still 83.3%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a thing, for sure. So I want to bring up some of my favorite jokes. So this is actually a visual joke that we don't really Lux brought up. We don't really talk about a lot, but I love at the beginning when Jimbo and Ned are hunting and there's a tracking shot and you go from wheat to weed and you realize we're on Integrity Farms. It's rare that a purely visual joke makes me laugh, but that one was awesome.
That was great, and also all the gore gags were amazing. I was in hysterics watching just like blood spray because South Park's not usually that graphic in that kind of way.
Yeah,
and that was exciting and also hilarious.
Wait, is Jimbo back? Did he get saved or is he dead?
You mean Ned?
Or Ned, yeah.
Ned, he's put in Manbearpig's mouth, but we never see him get mutilated. He's just kind of carried off.
Well, right, but I mean, are we?
I
gonna see
assume
him
he's
again?
still alive because they're not going to just kill off a character. I don't think.
Okay, good.
A character that's been there since season 1.
Since episode 1, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Ned's a staple of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually good to see him and Satan. We didn't even talk about Satan.
Oh fuck yeah!
It was so good to see him again, especially since
guess.
I'm a huge fan of the South Park movie.
Yeah, me too.
So
Yeah.
Satan is one of my faves.
Great public library shout out.
Especially because earlier in the episode, Al Gore says, I searched on the internet and I found that he's a demon. But then he has to summon Satan to go to the public library, which I guess is a more valid source of information. I don't really know if they were going with anything other than just a silly joke there.
I think the joke is you can learn about this stuff at the library. That's it, right?
I didn't really get much more out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Pretty on
I also
those.
love to shout out to like the late medievalism piece that that was the inspiration for Manbearpig or whatever. When he's going through the drawing and he's like, and there's porcupine fish guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I love that late medievalist demon art that's just like random shit that doesn't look like anything real. That's like a personal piece of enjoyment, but I think it's very funny. I thought that was a good bit.
And I'm sure these jokes turned Ryan's stomach, but I loved. There's a school shooting in the woods. Outside of school is supposed to be the one place kids should be safe.
Why would that make my stomach?
Because you're very critical of the school shooting jokes.
No, all these school shooting jokes were hilarious.
Oh, well, you called me a monster earlier.
No, I'm just saying. But there have been in other episodes where they just didn't land and weren't funny, and then it's just kind of like, oh, whatever. But then every one of these, like the fact that it's so day-to-day thing for the cop, it's like the cop's performance really sells that. Oh God, I'm just tired of these fucking school shootings. Yeah, he sold it.
And that
the
it's
performance.
and that it's so motivated that like he wants it to be a school shooting, so he can just fucking wrap it up and go home and play Red Dead.
Yeah.
And so he keeps telling himself it's a school shooting, even when it's like very obviously not.
And it makes it all the darker and more sinister when he sees this tattered corpse. Doesn't even really look at it. He's like, all right, which one of you little shitheads did this? I love he walks up and he says, okay, which grade was the shooter in? And then he says, which one of you peckers felt isolated and lashed out at society?
Yeah, that's the best school shooter joke in the whole fucking thing.
Right,
He's like, all right, which one of you fuckers did that?
Because he's like, trivializing what is a pretty real problem, which is isolation and feelings of alienation that lead
lashing out at
to
society.
really bad anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucking dark episode.
This whole season
Yeah, man,
is
this
fucked.
one was so grim and also so funny.
Do you think it's grimmer than the last season?
Yes, dude. They're going relentless, balls to the wall into the darkness in this season.
Yeah, last season was like, lol, everyone's freaking out. Isn't that funny? And this season's like, well, I guess we're all dead.
Do you think
Which
that
is like a
walking
much
around
less
that?
of
a comedic ethos and a much more grim thing to think about.
Do you guys think Garrison will ever show up in this season?
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like they're doing great without him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
think
agree.
you got to get one piece, right?
But it is
one little
interesting.
taste of the Garrison.
They are
vibe.
totally going to have like, yeah,
Tiny cameo.
it's going to be a big cool thing when they bring him back because it's like, oh yeah, I forgot Trump's president.
Remember last season when we were saying that when they weren't talking about Garrison or Trump, we could almost feel like there's this big gaping hole. But I don't feel this way this time. What does that say? Is
That
it just,
says that we're all used to this
yes,
shit.
that's what I was going to say. It's like normalization, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's that.
Or,
Well, okay, and it was
I mean, I think that last season there were times like when they weren't talking about when Garrison wasn't there, they were talking around him in a way that I feel like they're making clear points in each episode, and it's like it just feels more complete this season in a way that there was like an obvious hole in last season for a lot of it.
Yeah, and I also think that this season, and maybe this is just me being in like riled up leftist post-election mode, but like it feels like this season they're more interested in the kind of structural issues and less the specific instance of like Trumpism, and more of like the conditions in the world that like foster that kind of bullshit. So it's less about like the specific thing and more about the world that invented it. So you get things like the weird economics of the scooter, or like the disaster of climate change, or like the nihilism of shooting shit and all that. And it's more about those structural issues than about like the guy, which is like the more important and more true thing anyway. So good on South Park for being able to tell a difference that CNN can't seem to fucking figure out.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that, but I guess what I'm saying is that every week something ridiculous is happening around Trump that would in any other year, or it would be enough to motivate a South Park lampoonery, but they're just choosing to focus elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice, because I think that the things they're talking about are more important and more interesting than just like our president's a big wet dude with a gravy brain.
And it's like all one note jokes. Like it's just he's always doing something where they can have Garrison show up and just be like ridiculous and foul, and that gets the point across.
I mean, I still think one of my favorite jokes is Paul Ryan with "Is that cum on your black eye?"
Yeah, I mean, like I was about to say what Amanda said, like gets Garrison to come in and just be foul. Like there's nothing. That's not to say that shit isn't hilarious when Garrison does that.
Course.
I just don't need a ton of it all the time.
You don't need 2 seasons of
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's go into some voicemails / mailbag, unless anyone else had anything they wanted to bring up. Nope, let's do it. All right.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Ryan?
All right, yeah. First one we got is from Mojo Jojo.
This guy's on the Discord.
Hey, authoritarians. This is Mojo Jojo calling in from Atlanta. And I apologize in advance because I'm not very funny. So this will likely not be funny.
Okay.
But Time to Get Cereal was an A+++ for me. And because I rate it so high, I fully expect everyone else to hate it. But pressing on, the Detective Harris reaction to his wife playing his saved game absolutely cracked me up. I was dying at that. All of Al Gore's scenes were priceless.
I agree.
And I just loved it. But my question has to do with the main plot of the episode, which was South Park explicitly apologizing for a previous stance they had taken on the Manbearpig episode back in 2006. Now, this is the first time I can think of that the show has ever explicitly said we were wrong and we are sorry. So do you think this will open the door for more apologies for previous episodes? The example that sprang to my mind was possibly revisiting Mr. Mackey's failed experiment with IntelliLink from the Taming Strange episode, which was obviously a stand-in for healthcare reform. So, anyway, looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say on the topic, and I hope you're all ready to go to the store.
Thank you, Mojo Jojo.
Thank you, Mojo.
Well, that's an
That was
interesting.
funny.
It's an interesting question.
Great radio voice,
Dude, hell yeah.
Damn,
Yeah.
that Georgia accent is the fucking shit.
You are funny, Mojo. You're wrong.
Yeah. I love that them Southern voices. Makes me feel back at home.
So yeah, what do y'all think? I tend to think that this is probably a very, very, very rare thing for them, that they're going to actually backtrack and apologize. So I would go ahead and say no. And I do think we kind of fucked up by not rewatching Manbearpig, because I
tried to find it. It wasn't. It actually. I don't know if they did this deliberately, but it's not available on South Park Studios.
Huh? Maybe because they
know.
They know. They're like, oh shit, we don't want to put our propaganda out there.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Ryan. I don't think they will, especially because like the difference between this and like the healthcare parallel thing that Mojo draws in the voicemail is that like the healthcare thing is like a political issue with questions of methodology attached to it and shit like that. Whereas this is like very much like an existential, everyone's going to die. And I think that's why it facilitates like a very unique and very rare approach from them that we're probably not going to see with anything else.
Well, see, here's my one thing, and this is why I wish we had rewatched the episode, because like your average climate change denier out there, right? Like, who literally says, "Oh no, I don't believe those scientists." You know, like I would say that's a very that's a very rare person, and not even what they were talking about in the episode almost. And it's like your average person that
in the new episode, or
in
the
new
one?
episode,
okay.
and your average person who is skeptical about the stuff is skeptical about the solutions for it, and they will usually say, "Oh yeah, well I agree it's happening," like the douchebag in the Denny's or whatever. Like he's like, "Oh, I agree it's happening, but what are we going to do about it?" You know, it's those. I feel like that is the majority of people that are anti-Manbearpig people. You know.
I agree. I think we've moved past denial, and now it's just, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it's just the people that say we should do this shit, or people saying, well, what are we going to do? You know, and it's the very, very fringe is saying, oh, I don't believe it's heating up.
Yeah, well, I think climate. Yeah, I think that after like 2012 or some shit, climate denial became just like nonsense talk. Generally, I mean, it was nonsense talk for a long time, but it like became explicitly nonsense talk like within the discourse.
Yeah, once again, I think this goes back to what we were discussing earlier, and I think that it's a blurry line between an apology and a kind of reorientation to like pre-apologize or something like that. Well,
it feels like, to me, it seems like they're apologizing for what they said, but not for the position that Al Gore's a sanctimonious douche.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, we should take climate change seriously. Our bad.
But do you really think that they didn't?
Sucks, which is a position I can get behind.
Do you think that Matt and Trey didn't believe in climate change when the first Manbearpig episode came out, which I thought was 2010, not 2006?
I'm sure they believed in climate change.
That's how I feel.
We're more focused on taking down a liberal goon.
And also, I think that back then, especially if it was 2006, which I think actually sounds right. I think I was in high school when it came out. Is like the back then, similar to now, a lot of people who were shitty about this weren't just like it's not real, but were like it's not that big of a deal, right? Like we'll science our way out of it later. And only in recent years we've been like, oh, we might not. And so not taking it seriously then, like Amanda said before, is an error of foresight. And by kicking the can down the road, it's gotten as bad as it has. And I think that they're sort of saying like we should have taken it seriously then. We didn't as much as we should have. Our bad. Al Gore's still a douchebag. All true.
Cool. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. Thank you, Mojo. Let's go here. Hold on one second.
Because it's time to get.
Okay.
Also, if you want to leave us a voicemail, thoughts, comments, insights, jokes, 213-534-8807. I hope I'm getting that right because I didn't write it down.
All right. We're going to go with Edwin here. Edwin, you're up.
Hi. I'm calling for Respect My Authority podcast.
You're on.
I'm Edwin from Kissimmee. This is my third attempt, so I'm going to try to make this short. I felt like with the Halloween episode of South Park that it also showed that the convenience will kill or is taking over the quality of experience or experience of the holiday. Like it just makes things go faster instead of just enjoying the time with your friends of trick-or-treating, going house to house and get a whole bunch of candy. But also I feel like convenience in some ways, like transportation helps. I attend UCF, which is a large university. So it helps students get to certain parts of the campus, and it like makes their distance way better instead of just walking. But I also feel like convenience could kill business. Like I remember the story in New York of two women from Silicon Valley tried to make this. It was a gentrification vending machine that they tried to take over a bodega. but the bodega is important to the community, particularly in New York, where
That shit was so crazy.
Hispanics and black people get their things, and so it's not really benefiting the community at all. That's all I wanted to say, and I'm a huge supporter of the channel and your podcast. Hope you guys keep doing what you do, and hope for the best.
Thanks, Edwin.
Bye.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, Edwin.
Well, it was sad that I wasn't on the last episode, right? But listening to it, I definitely was like, you guys were giving scooters way harder of a time than they fucking deserved, man. What did they ever do to fucking you?
Somebody definitely accused us of being old man yells at cloud.
And that's all. Yeah, that's what I thought. In fact, I pulled up an email that I really agreed with, from some dude. He kind of encapsulates my feelings about it, and I'd like to read it. This guy says, from Linus, his subject is convenience is good. Hey, authoritarians. In the last podcast, there was a lot of discussion on how e-scooters is progress only because it's a convenience and not due to the value of the product or the innovation itself. You're, however, missing the value that convenience brings to society through allowing people to use their time in other ways. There's always an alternate cost to everything, and by not spending your time on shopping, walking, or farming your own weed, you will free up time to do the things you are actually good at. I believe people spend more time on their work and projects today than ever before. Therefore, that extra convenience is very valuable to society. Thank you, Linus, and thank you, e-scooters, for bringing convenience into our lives. What's wrong with you people?
I have two issues with that email and this argument. Instantly.
Yes.
Okay.
First, you elitist prick.
Yeah. First, yes, scooters can make things more convenient. So can social strata and social program issues, which the scooters trade off with by shifting investment from things like schools,
it's a private company,
to fucking scooters.
It's a private company.
The bigger issue, right, and the thing we were saying on the episode is that the scooters aren't bad inherently because they're scooters or because they're convenient, but because they get dumped into communities that didn't ask for them. Like the UCF example that the caller gave is a great one of this is a community that could use and wants to have things like scooters. North Central Austin is a great example of a community that does not need and does not want scooters, but has them anyway and has to deal with the ramifications.
I would say a lot of people do want scooters
are bad
there.
In a vacuum. It's that scooters are bad when they're imposed upon by tech companies that don't know what the community wants.
Well, I have to imagine that if the community doesn't want them, no one's going to use them, and then they'll probably move their product out.
Exactly. They get the fuck out. But I bet there's a lot of people using them in Austin. My guess.
There's already been petitions and shit in town to get rid of them from people in the local communities who don't want them anymore.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree on scooters.
Didn't you say you almost busted your head open?
Yeah, that was my fucking fault. Personal responsibility, baby. That's me. That's on me.
If you crash on the scooter, that is on you. It's not the scooter's fault.
All right, let's do one more before we go into the mailbag.
All right. Let's go with Wes.
What's up, my authoritarians? This is Wes from Maryland. First time caller, long time listener, I guess. The South Park episode with Manbearpig. As soon as, I got Dish Network, and then when I looked at the description, I was instantly thinking of Ryan and thinking he probably came 5 times as soon as he saw Manbearpig in the first 10 minutes of the episode. But, overall, it was a good episode. I just felt like the one joke that they kept, going on and on about with the Red Dead Redemption 2, it was funny, but it's gonna really date the episode down the line, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is cool now, but it's gonna be dated once, the hype is all done. But overall, it was a good episode. I really liked it. You guys keep up the good work, and call you guys.
Oh, sorry, Wes. But great email or great voicemail. 2 points. 1, you're wrong. I came 6 times when I read it. 2,
very impressive.
I'm always impressed with South Park that they do stuff that's so obviously going to date their episodes. They spend so much time working on this. They pump them out, and then they're doing things that are not going to be funny even a year from now. At least have the same relevance. But at the same time, that they're unique in that way. They're a cartoon that is talking about such topical stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's almost like every fucking episode of South Park is immediately dated if you don't know the.
Sometimes they kind of they're like, hey, we're like Saturday Night Live. We're just doing of the minute things.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good analogy of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, because right.
And they don't do
it's
it all
like
the
a
time.
trade-off because you have super, super current, but then, yeah, like nobody's going to know what that is in 5 years.
Although I will say that it really is a milestone for gaming. So, I mean, if it was some other release, I could see that. But yeah, I mean, no, he's got a great point. All right, let's go into the mailbag. If you guys want to email us, it's southpark@wisecrack.co. Lux, what you got for us?
All right. Well, Linus was the first email in the mailbag, so thanks, Ryan.
Sorry.
No, I mean, great minds think alike, because I did want to talk about it. And then we had an email from Arnie, but we don't have to deal with this one too much. Arnie just wanted us to know that if we didn't mention the South Park Manbearpig Easter egg, or if we didn't mention the Manbearpig Easter egg in Red Dead Redemption, they're going to fly over here, hunt us down, and pull our intros out of our butt and strangle us with them.
Well, thank God
You're
for
welcome.
Ryan.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ryan really bailed us out on that
Glad
one.
I'm here.
Which I appreciate. And now we have another email from Osama in Canada. He says, "Hey Wisecrack, it's Canadian Osama again. I don't really have a question, but I want to say that this was definitely, in reference to last night's episode, the most graphic I've seen South Park yet. The point of this, I guess, is to convey what a deadly and immediate existential crisis humanity has to face. The scene where the guy in the restaurant explains to his wife why there's no such thing as climate change is my favorite scene. Thanks again. Honestly, you guys get me through my night shifts. Keep it up." So what do you guys think? Do you think that like the graphic element of the episode was like to drive home the point about climate change, or was that just like because blood is cool?
No, absolutely. But I wouldn't.
But also
say,
because it's funny. Because the contrast of the guy sipping the wine acting like a douchebag and Manbearpig savagely ripping people into ribbons in behind him really makes that contrast extra funny.
And I wouldn't say that it's even more graphic than other episodes. I mean, South Park has some fucked up, gnarly, graphic, bloody shit throughout the years.
Yeah.
It was like higher quality, though.
Yeah, it was like higher res graphicness.
Yeah.
Just like Red Dead. It's meta.
Yeah, it was very Red Dead. All right. Well, thank you, Osama. And now we've got Jurat. So many people on both sides of the political spectrum have complained about the last several seasons of South Park being, quote, political, which is a fallacy of an argument, considering Parker and Stone have always abstractly and bluntly stated their viewpoints on religion, capitalism, homosexuality, environment, liberal establishments, and conservative neighborhoods. I feel like it's too similar from the Last Jedi argument that it's bad because it goes in the opposite direction of what many were expecting. In both cases, both ideas can be great conceptually, but is all dependent upon execution. So the execution is bad. People echo these reduced sentiments without going into detail. With South Park, there have been bad political episodes, meh political episodes, good political episodes, and great political episodes, as last night proved, IMHO. My own personal opinion is that escapism is essentially dead, where every single statement is somehow interpreted as an indoctrinating opinion that is subjective to a particular environment that does not reflect an entire population. Thus, people pay attention to the statement and not the comedy or the storytelling. Therefore, in today's think piece culture, where everybody has an identity, South Park is subject to more criticism than it was during the Bush years, where its biggest critics, think Sean Penn or Roger Ebert, were often ridiculed for being out of touch. I wish to float this conversation because it feels omnipresent, like an omnipresent statement on every single recent YouTube video about South Park. It's getting lame because it's political, except for you guys, and that's why you're awesome. Jurat.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think that's really, thank you. I think that's a really fascinating take on the way people think about like a newly politicized South Park. How do you guys feel about any of that?
I feel like South Park also has demanded it by giving more nuance and by caring more about what it's saying politically. Yeah, so I feel like it's stepped up to that plate, but yeah, I agree that it's definitely more statement oriented.
Do you guys
as
think...
evidenced by Manbearpig.
I haven't really been watching other YouTube videos about South Park, but do you guys think that people don't like it because they just think that the politics is compromising the comedy, or do you think that specifically it's because they're not saying things that they agree with?
I feel like the latter.
I think it's a little column A, little column B, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say I think it's totally both. I think it's basically there's a whole group of people that are just like completely, why does every fucking thing have to be political? There's that camp, that probably doesn't like politics being in every episode. And then there's the camp that is just saying like, can we get back to fart jokes?
I don't know. I mean, I basically said the same thing last episode, is that I like Matt and Trey are so awesome because they, even, if you take this episode as compared to the Mr. Hanky episode, they seem to straddle both sides of the kind of ideological division, and you don't really see that in any other piece of comedy, which I think is so awesome.
I think they're pretty awesome at being balanced while also telling you kind of a general idea what they believe.
Or at least espousing beliefs that don't just lay down to one side or the other.
Yeah, exactly.
And critiquing everybody.
Right.
Yeah, and they have like an internally coherent belief system that like is both like that takes like both has like liberal and conservative elements to it that don't necessarily contradict, but like moves both ways. And it's like they're not specifically like lefty or not specifically like righty or whatever. They have like a progressive libertarian sort of thing happening.
It's almost like
a
they're
real
libertarian.
Crazy mix them up.
All right, well, we're going to go and wrap it up for today. We'll see you guys next week for Season 22, Episode 7. You can give us a call at 213-534-8807, or you can send us an email at southpark@wisecrack.co.